I was framed by fate and shipped to the countryside, where my alcoholic adoptive mother starved me and my gambler adoptive father broke my ribs. While I was being kicked into the pigsty, fate stepped into my life and became the pampered little princess of the Vance estate. 5 years later they dragged me back from a bright, beloved Emery to a cowering country. My childhood fiancé loathed me. He stood beside fate and snarled, "Why wasn't it you who got raped that night?" But when I finally walked toward another man, he begged me not to leave on his knees, tears in his eyes. I only gave him a cold smile. "Julian, why wasn't it you who died back then?" The first time I returned to the Vance estate, nothing was the same. The mansion was still the one I'd grown up in, yet 5 years had been enough to erase every trace of me. I hovered at the threshold, nodding a frayed corner of my rough cotton dress, my scrawny frame lost inside the sun-bleached fabric, sallow skin and hollow cheeks making me look like an ugly duckling too frightened to step inside. "Planning to block the doorway all day? Haven't the Vances lost enough face because of you?" A mocking voice sliced in from behind. "Looks like 5 years of re-education taught you nothing, still the same drama queen." My own older, Nathan, shouldered past me hard enough to send me stumbling. I caught myself on the jam and felt a splinter slice my palm. He glanced down at the blood with revulsion. "Cut the fragile act. One shove and you're dying? Who are you performing for? When Chloe was hurt so badly, did you ever shed a tear for her? Once upon a time, if the brother who'd spoiled me since birth had dared accuse me like this, I'd have thrown a tantrum loud enough to rattle the chandeliers. But 5 grinding years had scraped the emery right off me. I knew every soul in this house hated me down to the marrow. Explanations would only bring louder ridicule. I dropped my head, stared at the dust on my shoes, and forced my legs to carry me over the threshold. "I'm sorry." Nathan's gaze slid to my stained sneakers. He clicked his tongue in disgust. "Zhang, toss the welcome mat and mop the floor twice." My spine turned to ice. The news raced through Eastbrook's social circuit. The former #1 socialite was back, and everyone wanted front row seats to the circus. Nathan didn't ask, he simply shoved me into the back seat of his limousine and sped to the rooftop lounge. Once, a paper cut on my finger had sent him roaring at anyone who'd listen. Now he couldn't wait for strangers to humiliate me. He propelled me through the VIP booth door. I tripped, sprawling across the nearest man's lap. Laughter exploded. The man flung me off like I was something unclean, slapping at his designer sleeves. 5 years, still throwing yourself at guys, pathetic. He yelled toward the corner, "I'm not Julian, I don't put up with being stalked for half a decade." My whole body locked. In that corner, cold eyes pinned me to the carpet. Julian, my childhood friend, the man I'd loved for 8 solid years, sat amid the smoky haze, one long leg crossed over the other, a glass of amber whiskey balanced between his fingers. He was now Jordan's fiancé, not mine. Everyone had watched me chase him like a lovesick fool. Even when he felt nothing, I'd bartered every scrap of dignity for that engagement. Julian Golden Scion, Eastbrook's paragon of poise, had only ever seen me as the single blemish on his perfect resume. 5 years had carved him even sharper, still calm, still lethal, still able to make the air vibrate just by sitting there. My pulse stuttered. "What does that have to do with me?" he said, voice flat. Nathan sauntered in. "Ting Chu, she never paid for what she did to Chloe. Thought you'd enjoy watching her apologize." He pushed me into the center of the booth beneath a rain of stares, old friends, ex-classmates, former flatterers, every face glittering with anticipation. "Wait, that's Alex? Looks like a scarecrow. Money can't buy breeding, can it?" Finally seeing the real country underneath all that couture. Julian's brows drew together. "Big night, and you drag her in to kill the mood?" "Exactly, she'll claw at Julian again if we let her. Jordan's the real match, this tramp should look in a mirror." My throat burned. We'd learned to ride bikes together, shared birthday cake, traded sneakers. How did I become the trespasser in our story? I knew the answer: stars only shine when the sky is dark enough, and my fall had let every lesser light gleam. "Speak," Nathan commanded, delighted. I walked forward, lowered myself until my knees hit the marble, and folded my hands in my lap to hide their shaking. I'm sorry. I was shameless, arrogant, obsessed. I hounded you, disrespected you, turned your life into a joke. Please, forgive me this once. Surprise flickered behind Julian's eyes. He'd expected tantrums, not surrender. A soft, contemptuous laugh escaped him. That all? The bitterness spread across my tongue. And Chen. I'll stay out of her way, I swear. No trouble, ever. I was terrified. One wrong syllable and they'd ship me back to that village, to broken bones and nights screaming into a rag. Julian gave a cool nod. Smart. Step out of line again and even the Vances won't save you. Understood. As if they would lift a finger for me now. Mocking applause rippled. I tuned it out. Julian studied me like a specimen. I kept my gaze on the floor. I won't appear before you again. Congratulations to you and Chen, may you be happy forever. And please, let that be the price of my freedom. The words curdled something in Julian's expression, the line of his jaw hardened. Then get lost. Nathan looked disappointed, but Julian's fury was a leash. He yanked me out and dumped me in the car. I leaned my forehead to the icy window, tears slipping sideways. How did my life detonate so completely? The timer had started ticking the day Jordan walked through the school gates. 3 junior year, I found Jordan cornered by thugs behind the gym. I'd been Eastbrook's reigning Emery, shining, reckless, safe inside a fortress of money, so I scattered her tormentors and dragged her home. When the limousine rolled through the mansion gates, her eyes flared wide, reflecting chandeliers and marble. I mistook that light for gratitude. It was hunger. We became inseparable. I even loved the tenement block where her parents lived, the cramped rooms that smelled of curry and crayons, the couple who called me Little Princess and fried sweet sesame balls. Winter came early that year. I woke to smoke clawing my lungs. The hallway was an oven. Jordan was gone. I crawled toward the living room where her mother and father lay unconscious. Heat buckled the floorboards, my limbs turned to wet sand. At the last second a blast of air punched me backward. Someone shoved me clear. Through the inferno I saw her mother's face twist in a silent scream as flames swallowed her whole. I couldn't understand why the brother who had once spoiled me rotten was staring at me like I was his mortal enemy. In the days that followed I slowly stitched together the blank chapter one had never witnessed. According to Jordan, her parents had turned in early that night while I, whining for fried chicken, cracked open the gas valve and sent her out to buy the ingredients. She had barely reached the corner when a thunderous roar tore through the house and everything turned to fire. No wonder my parents looked at me so strangely. Even my once closest older became ice cold overnight. They were convinced I had murdered Jordan's parents. In 6 short months Jordan won the hearts of my family and friends, leaving me isolated, branded the villain who had destroyed her home. But I knew the truth. No one would listen. They believed Jordan so completely that every word I spoke sounded to them like the desperate wriggling of a guilty conscience. Alex, I used to think you were just willful, but now I see you're not only rotten, you're evil. You were one of the ringleaders who bullied Chloe in high school, weren't you? Pretending to be kind to polish your own reputation. Playing with other people's lives must be such a thrill. I denied Nathan's accusations with everything I had, while Jordan, standing behind him, lowered her head timidly, looking for all the world as though she were admitting it. My heart sank inch by inch. She had done it on purpose. Why? I grew hypersensitive, exactly what Jordan wanted. She used my mood swings to paint herself as the fragile victim, turning me into a jealous, bullying she-devil who picked on the weak, sealing the accusation in everyone's minds. Then came the day Jordan texted me to meet her by the river. Normally I would have been too afraid to refuse, but that afternoon I was burning with fever. I collapsed on my bed and slept. Nathan woke me with a slap. His eyes were red, blazing with hatred I had never seen before. Alex, you're not even human. No matter how jealous you are of Chloe, how could you hire men to dash? I was dragged to the precinct house. Several thugs pointed at me the moment they saw me, claiming I had paid them. Dazed, I stared at my weeping mother and my raging father, still clueless about what was happening until I saw Jordan leaning on Julian's shoulder. I know Serena envies me, but sending men to violate me? She already took my family, must she steal Julian, my only support? Jordan sobbed blood-red tears. I watched Julian's face darken and felt every last drop of color drain from my own. No, I didn't. Jordan would never ruin herself just to frame me, yet the one who was supposed to be raped had been me. Somehow they got the wrong girl, and Jordan reaped what she herself had sown. She simply rolled with the mistake and pinned it on me. To protect Jordan's reputation, they didn't send me to prison, they banished me to the mountain village. Up there women are not treated as human. I was worked like livestock day and night, wasting away, sickness crawling all over me. Whenever my adoptive father lost at gambling, he beat me viciously. My skin was never without bruises, and he even plotted to sell me for a dowry. Before they drove me away, Julian's face was contorted with fury. Alex, why wasn't it you who was raped? It felt as if someone had ripped a gaping hole in my chest. The man I had loved for 8 years now spat the ugliest curse at me for another woman's sake. How could he know I had been the intended victim all along? 6 At first my adoptive parents treated me decently, they thought the Vances might pay. Once they realized I was a worthless outcast, their true nature surfaced. They beat me half dead. With my last shred of strength I stole a phone and rang Julian. His indifferent voice crushed the final spark of hope inside me. When you've honestly repented, I might consider bringing you back. I felt as though I had plunged into an ice cellar. Trust and love for Julian were whittled away by disappointment until nothing was left. I no longer dared to love him. The voices in the mansion grew faint, cold numbed me until I lost consciousness. Feverish memories flooded back, sleeping in the pigsty, working through wind and snow. Head spinning, I stumbled outside. I have no idea how long I was out before I woke in the hospital. The instant I opened my eyes, my father slapped me. Disgraceful wretch, can't you stay quiet? Must you parade the Vance family's dirty laundry for the whole of Eastbrook? I sat frozen, ears ringing. Mother sighed, unable to bear it. Your father only wanted to grind down your impulsive edges. If we kept indulging you, who knows what you'd do next? Why on earth did you run away? Long exposure to the cold had dulled my mind, their faces blurred. I bit my tongue hard to stay awake, the metallic taste of blood spreading through my mouth. I was wrong, please don't send me back, I beg you. Nathan gave a cold laugh. Who are you performing for now? Is this what you learned in the countryside, how to play the victim? Funny, since you never once recalled how you bullied Chloe. I simply hung my head, wordless. Father couldn't even bring himself to look at me, he turned and walked out. Years of torment had left my nerves frayed, so when Nathan reached toward me I instinctively collapsed, arms shielding my face. I'm sorry, I was wrong, please don't hit me, I beg you. Are you sick? Nathan snapped, startled, then disgusted. How long are you going to keep this act up? I gazed up blankly, only when my vision cleared did I realize my back was soaked in cold sweat. 7 years of hard labor and beatings had hollowed out my health. When my adoptive father tried to marry me off to a village widower, I ran for my life, slipped off a cliff, and smashed my leg and skull. They refused to pay for a hospital. I lay in a damp shack until the breaks mended crookedly. Now, whenever emotion surges, knives seem to slash the inside of my skull. Clutching my head, I trembled uncontrollably while molten agony swallowed me, searing air flooded my lungs as I sucked in desperate breaths, my upper body going numb. For the first time Nathan's scrutiny faltered, a flicker of shock crossing his face, but I blacked out before I could speak. 8 When I came to, my parents and Nathan were gone. A nurse hurried off and returned with a neurosurgeon. There's a large intracranial hematoma. Why did you wait so long? I couldn't answer. The blood clot was pressing on crucial nerves. At any moment it could become the detonator that ended me. Surgery now still offers a chance. I lowered my head, lost. The surgical bill was astronomical. Would the Vances pay? Recalling their loathing, my chest throbbed. They probably prayed I would simply vanish. I shook my head. Prescribe stabilizers first. After paying for the medication I had almost nothing left, plastic bag in hand, I walked back to the Vance estate. The moment I stepped through the door I collided with Julian and Jordan standing side by side. My entire body convulsed as if emptied of soul. The woman who had stolen my life 5 years had sanded away her old timidity, leaving the polish of a genuine heiress. She and Julian looked the perfect golden pair. Jordan showed no surprise. Stepping forward, she clasped my hand in feigned concern, then noticed the medicine. "Serena, what's wrong?" Her worry felt like a trap. I jerked back instinctively. A razor-sharp gaze bored into me. Julian's warning from the rooftop lounge flashed through my mind and I dropped my head in terror. "I'm sorry. If I'd known you were here I wouldn't have come back." "What do you mean?" Reflexively Julian reached for my shoulder once, his private signal that he was about to push away my pestering. I had treasured it as a secret intimacy. Now I flinched as if electrocuted and sprang back. Julian froze, his eyes darkening. "I'm sorry. I'll leave right, Alex?" My body locked. Nathan stood in the doorway, his glance swept from my ashen face to Jordan and Julian, and something clicked in his expression. All I felt for the brother who shared my blood was naked dread. Ignoring everything else I bolted outside. Malnutrition plus the fresh flare-up turned my legs to cotton, every step felt like wading through air. A brutal jerk on my wrist yanked me back. "Who said you could come home on your own?" My knees shook, a high-pitched whine filling my ears. I apologized on reflex. The display of cowardice enraged Nathan, his eyes raked over me, his frown deepening. "Looks like your illness is nothing. If you're fine, why bother with medicine?" He snatched the plastic bag. "Since obedience doesn't stick, a harder lesson will." I lunged to retrieve it, but I was no match for him. Nathan's arm arced, the bag sailed through the air and plopped into the river nearby. I collapsed on the ground, finally defeated. He shot me a look of pure disgust, lifted his foot, and nudged my leg as though even that had soiled his Italian leather, then spat. "If I hadn't come back when I did, you'd already be throwing yourself at Julian again. Shameless. Julian and Chloe are getting married, and you still crawl after him. Alex, do you even have a shred of pride left? Why weren't you blown up with the rest that night?" I sat on the cold marble, numb. Yeah, why hadn't the blast taken me too? The couple who shared no blood with me had tried to drag me out of the flames, yet my own flesh and blood loathed me for a stranger's sake and wished me dead. I pictured Jordan's falsely innocent face and tugged one corner of my mouth, too tired to explain. Nathan's curses kept raining down, but I'd stopped hearing. I didn't even notice when he stormed away. Tanae disgraced, unloved daughter still had one marketable use, a strategic marriage. I watched them parade candidates across the mansion's ballroom and felt an unexpected calm. At last I could leave this suffocating house. Wolf's den or tiger's lair, I would walk in and see for myself. The family pledged me to the illegitimate son of Hawthorne's CEO. The Hawthornes had 4 children, in all 2 boys, 2 girls, and Derek had been acknowledged only last year. His position was less humiliating than mine, but only just. "With your reputation, landing a Hawthorne is charity," Father warned. "Stay meek and grateful, and don't you dare embarrass Chloe." I stared at Jordan's smirk and agreed without a word. On the day the contracts were signed, I met Derek for the first time. His dark eyes narrowed, the elegant slash of brows drawn tight. He clearly hated the arrangement as much as I did. "I know your family chose me to humble you," I said. "We're both trapped, so let's treat this like a merger. I won't cling, and I won't make scenes. As long as you don't stab me in the back, I'll fight for your interests. After all, you don't intend to stay a shadow-bred illegitimate forever." For the first time Derek really looked at me, something sharp flickering behind the iris. I lifted his hand with a light laugh and turned us toward the waiting cameras. Ivy League summa cum laude, former air in training, top socialite in Eastbrook. The title wasn't awarded for cheekbones alone. "I can outthink any of your siblings." During 5 endless mountain years I had repeated my name to the cracked ceiling every night so I would not forget. I no longer begged for love, I wanted only what belonged to me, not father's approval, not Nathan's, and certainly not Julian's. I wanted the life that should have been mine. To pry myself free, I needed an ally stitched to me by shared gain, something as binding as law. Marriage would do. I'd heard the rumors. Derek was already plotting. He was perfect. A partner hungry and lowborn, a union of paper, not hearts. Love was a luxury I could no longer afford. His cool fingers twitched, then closed firmly around mine. A thin, dangerous smile curved his mouth. 11. Jordan sauntered up, coiled around Julian's arm. Derek's hand gave mine a subtle squeeze. Everyone in Eastbrook still gossiped about Julian and me. Derek must have heard. Was he comforting me? I laughed under my breath, a flicker of resignation crossing my face. To Julian that single smile looked like shy affection. His own expression darkened. "Seems Vance works fast," he drawled, gaze flicking to Derek. Sparks crackled between the two men. "Little Hawthorne, you might want a briefing on local bedtime stories. Your fiancé and I starred in quite a few." Jordan stiffened. "Julian, stop. Today is Serena's engagement, we should wish her and Hawthorne happiness." She pressed closer to him, voice syrupy. "A match made in heaven, clearly." Derek's arm slid around my shoulders. "She is the Vance family's only Emery," he said, lingering on the word only. Jordan's face blanched. "I intend to treat my wife with single-minded devotion, no sampling side dishes while staring at the main course." I bit my lip to smother a laugh and towed Derek away before swords were drawn. Once we rounded the corner, I burst out laughing. "Didn't know you had it in me? You hired me, I'm returning value." He shrugged, dimples flashing. "I can hardly let my future wife be insulted on day one." Impulsively I poked the shallow indent in his cheek. We both froze. He recovered first and went to mingle. I turned, smile still blooming, and found Julian watching, face thunderous, eyes ink black. Instinct screamed run. Before I could move, Julian crossed the corridor, seized my wrist, and hauled me into an empty cloakroom. He shoved me against the wall, pain jarred my ribs. When I tried to twist free, he pinned both wrists above my head. "The great Emery, so desperate for a man, shall settle for an illegitimate? You've lowered your standards since Prison Mountain." Humiliation scalded me. "My choices aren't your concern." He yanked me after him. I stumbled, terror flooding back. "Let go. Jordan will see." He halted, eyes like cracked ice. "You walked away because of Jordan?" I shook my head violently. "No. This has nothing to do with her. How many lies live in that mouth, Alex? You vowed you loved me, swore you'd marry no one else. All fiction?" I remembered the night he dragged me from the car and left me in knee-deep snow, engine revving into the dark. "Yes, all fake. I never loved you, not then, not now. Happy? Let me go." Julian's face was ashen, his eyes bloodshot. The violent rise and fall of his chest betrayed the fury he was fighting to smother. He curled his lip in a rigid sneer. "And Eric? Do you love him?" I nodded, confused. "Yes, I love Dash." Before I could finish, a foreign tang of tobacco overwhelmed me. My eyes flew open, my mind went blank. His kiss crashed down, ferocious, molten, freighted with rage, as if he meant to swallow me whole. A sharp bite stung my lip. I struggled wildly, but the harder I fought, the hotter his anger burned and the fiercer his assault became. The air was sucked from my lungs. Drowning, terrifying darkness closed in. The fragile dam inside me burst and the filth I had buried surged up. My skull split with pain, something inside howling to get out. White light flashed. Pain, terror, grievance, shame, countless emotions slammed into me. Tears spilled, scalded my cheeks, dropped onto Julian's face. He froze, lifted his head slowly, a flicker of bewilderment in his eyes. My body went limp. Tears streaked my face, my voice cracked. "I've tried so hard to stay away from you. Why come after me again? Do you hate me that much, so much you won't leave me even one breath of space to live?" For an instant I thought I saw panic cross his face, but before I could be sure blackness swallowed me. 12 I hadn't expected Derek to be the one sitting by the bed. When he saw I was awake he exhaled. I step out for 5 minutes and you collapse. How am I supposed to trust you alone? He clearly knew about my condition, I didn't bother hiding it. You brought me here? He read my worry. Relax. I didn't tell Julian. Relief washed through me, gratitude toward Derek grew. But your body's a mess, he added. The neurosurgeon says without the operation you could die any moment. Seeing the faint worry etched on his face, I smiled lightly. Don't fret. I know what I'm doing. After Derek left I finished the 4, stood, and prepared to check out. Suddenly hurried footsteps hammered the corridor. Assuming Derek had returned, I kept my eyes down. Forget something? No answer. I looked up. Julian stood fuming, mouth twisted in contempt. Beside him Jordan regarded me with cool indifference. He flung the door wide, seized my collar, and jerked me close. Alex, 5 years, and you haven't changed a bit. Still so shameless. Faking illness to toy with me hilarious, isn't it? My gaze dropped. If Chloe hadn't told me I'd still be dancing to your little death act. Put on such a grand show, why don't you just die for real? Bitterness flooded me. If I did, would that finally satisfy you? Absolutely, he sneered, revulsion dripping from every word. Someone like you doesn't deserve to live. 13 few guests attended Derek's and my wedding. His lineage was tainted, my reputation long since trashed. I wore an ill-fitting wedding gown and shuffled out alone. Derek was downstairs greeting the handful of attendees, I lugged the heavy train myself. Father refused to walk me down the aisle, so Nathan grudgingly took his place. Yet he blocked the doorway, face dark with anger. Alex, you're about to marry into the Hawthorns, have you no shame left? I stared at the folded paper in his outstretched hand, dread pooling in my gut. Jordan had slipped inside moments ago. No. I thought you finally learned obedience, agreeing to this strategic marriage. Turns out you're still scheming. He hurled the sheet at my face, the edge slashed my forehead. Eyes shut, I picked it up carefully. When I saw the words my heart lurched. It was a love letter to Julian, more precisely, a solicitation, explicit enough to make a courtesan blush. No wonder Nathan was apoplectic. I didn't write this. Still lying. He yanked me toward the staircase. Since decency means nothing to you, let the guests hear every filthy word. I stumbled. At the far end of the hall stood Jordan, tears glittering like pearls on her cheeks. Watching my disgrace, a vicious gleam crossed her face before she sobbed delicately. Thank heaven I found it first. If Julian saw it, he'd retaliate against you again. Nathan released me and gently wiped her tears. Chloe, you're too kind. That's why this wretch keeps bullying you. Jordan approached, her innocent mask twisting. Serena, you're getting married, can't you stop stealing Julian from me? You've already taken everything I had. Why won't you let me go? The question was mine to ask. You snatched my life, why still torment me? I retreated instinctively, but the long gown shackled my legs. She seized my hands and tugged, forcing me backward until my spine met the balustrade. She smiled cruel, triumphant. In that split second I realized what she meant to do. I flung her off, but the world spun. Somehow she was suddenly behind me, toppling down the stairs with the momentum of my shove. From any distance it looked exactly like I had pushed her. I stared, frozen. The old bait-ants witch, her favorite trap. Chloe! Chloe! 2 shouts overlapped. All I caught was Nathan's enraged face before his foot drove into my stomach. The ceiling whirled away, and I plummeted from the 2nd floor. Time slowed. Everyone rushed toward Jordan. Nathan sprinted down the steps, panic replacing fury. Julian knelt, lifting her with exquisite care, never once glancing my way. A dull crack at the back of my skull. Light dimmed, sound flattened, the world retreating behind a drum skin. Pain gushed outward, stealing consciousness. Through the haze a silhouette parted the crowd and ran toward me. 14 beep, beep, beep. Antiseptic stung my nose. My lids lifted onto whiteness. A figure stood at the window, back lonely and still. Derek. My throat rasped. The man turned. I had never seen Julian so haggard, bruised shadows under bloodshot eyes, stubble darkening his jaw, every line etched with exhaustion. Serena, you're awake. Memory crashed over me. Chaos, Jordan in a pool of blood, Julian frantic. I shrank violently. Don't come near me. I was wrong, please don't send me back. I tried to scramble away, my legs buckled and I crashed to the floor, ripping the floor from my hand. Blood beads dotted the tiles. Please let me go. I won't cling to you anymore, please. I babbled, voice cracking. Julian's hand trembled toward my tears, but I shrieked and yanked the blanket over my head. Serena, it's me, Julian. He pulled me into his arms, pinning my thrashing limbs, trying to steady me. His voice shook on the edge of weeping. It's my fault. Hit me, scream at me, just don't hurt yourself, Serena. Go away. I don't want to see you. Derek, help me. He froze, arms slack. I shoved him off and lurched for the door, but it was sealed, no matter how I clawed it wouldn't budge. Old terror clawed back into my throat. I fastened my eyes on Julian's despair-shadowed gaze. He spoke gently, Serena, don't be afraid. I'll never hurt you again. I swear I'll make every single person who hurt you pay. 15 Julian kept me under house arrest in the ward. The young private he hired chatted with me between sponge baths. From her I learned he had gone berserk when surgeons delivered my code blue notice, threatening them until they saved me. He called off his engagement to the Van Sass adopted daughter. He and Nathan, like men possessed, crushed half of Eastbrook's elite and even drove to a remote mountain village to drag a couple, Frank and Dolores Granger, into prison, leaving them without a patch of unbruised skin. Vance, Sterling really does love you. I sat by the window, woodenly watching the birds outside. Does he love me? More likely it's the twinge of possession a man feels when the girl who used to orbit him suddenly stops trailing behind. Or maybe he's learned the truth, feels guilty, and wants to pay his debt by rescuing me so he can sleep at night. The girl beside me sighed, cheeks flushed. I wish I could meet a man like that someday. I shook my head. Words rose, but I swallowed them. I hadn't the heart to burst her bubble. Julian stayed away for several days. When he returned, an almost boyish excitement lit his face and the table groaned beneath every dish I once loved. Serena, it'll be over soon. We'll go back to the way we were. He picked up a piece of fish, carefully stripped the bones, and lifted it to my lips. I met his sparkling eyes. A thread of fishy odor wriggled into my nose, my throat clamped, a dry heave shook me, and I doubled over coughing. He froze, then rubbed my back, frantic, apology spilling from him. I spent 5 years in the mountains eating leftovers and rancid slop. The only meat I ever tasted was a rat my adoptive father had stamped to death, skinned, boiled, and forced between my teeth. Ever since, the sight of meat flips my stomach. I coughed until tears streamed and my lungs burned. Julian fetched a bowl of porridge, I swept it to the floor. The white porcelain shattered with a crystalline snap. Don't touch me. I shrank to the foot of the bed, every muscle coiled in warning. Julian looked stricken, his eyes hollow. Serena, what do you want? I want Derek. His brows crashed together, face darkening. Why? I met you first. You once loved me with everything you had. What's so special about that illegitimate from the Hawthorne clan? The menace in his tone chilled me. Barefoot, I stumbled across the razor-sharp shards, hardly feeling them, and clutched his collar. What did you do to him? My voice quavered. His eyes glistened, but I had no room for his sorrow. If you dare hurt him, I'll never forgive you. He caught my wrists, the world spun, and he lifted me. I thrashed, beat at his chest and against a boulder. Julian pinned me to the mattress, wrists locked above my head, looming, eyes blazing with restraint and fury. I shuddered. If he disappears, will you come back to me? My pupils dilated. No. He's the only person I can still count on. Strength exploded through me. I shoved him away, scrambled onto the window ledge. Serena, get down. Panic rooted him 2 steps away. Talk to me, sweetheart. Don't do anything reckless, okay? His voice cracked, fear twisted his handsome face into something Private once described as the look of a madman. I don't trust you. Blood from my sliced sole smeared the marble. The early spring breeze was gentle, yet it couldn't disperse the desolation inside me. Julian pleaded, every word trembling, Serena, be good. Come down, please. He shifted. I simply closed my eyes and let myself fall backward. Serena dash, his hoarse scream dissolved in the wind. Maybe this, too, was deliverance. 16-inch, you promised you'd take care of my sister, this is how you do it. A bang jolted me awake. 2 figures grappled in the dim light. Sorry, Julian whispered, allowing Nathan's fists to rain down. As my vision cleared, I noticed a metallic glitter on Nathan's wrist. Clink clink, handcuffs. Private's earlier hints clicked into place, and a weight settled on my chest. I shut my eyes again. A rush of footsteps pounded outside. My heart lurched. Stopped at the door for a moment, then the panel swung open. Derek strode in on a gust of cold air and slammed his fist into Nathan's face. He glanced down at Julian, voice arctic, if anything happens to Serena, I'll destroy you. Derek. All 3 froze. Derek wrapped my hand in his. It's over. Everything's settled. The steadiness in his eyes slowed my frantic pulse. The projects you introduced made bank. I'm out of the Hawthorne orbit. You'll never have to watch anyone's face again. Behind him, Nathan stepped forward, composure cracking. Serena, Older was wrong. Older punished them for you, will you forgive? The door burst open again. Uniformed detectives filed in. Visiting time is over. Nathan's gaze clung to me, pleading, then collapsed into despair. I offered no reply, some wounds stay wounds. Time to leave too, Junior Sterling, Derek said coldly. Julian's gaze bored into me. I slipped my fingers from Derek's. I need a word with him alone. Derek's jaw tightened. Don't tell me you still care. I met his eyes calmly. Please. He exhaled through clenched teeth, stalked out. Julian knelt, cupping my hand as though it were spun glass. For once I didn't jerk away. A spark leapt in his ash-colored eyes. Serena, you asked if I ever loved you? Yes, I loved you single-mindedly, for years. His face lit like a desert wanderer finding water. Before he could speak I went on, tone flat, I couldn't admit it before because I still loved you. Now I can say it out loud because I don't anymore. The spark sputtered, died. At last he accepted the truth. 17 Derek and I set the wedding for 1 year after my discharge. In those 12 months our company, Southtime, flourished until even the Vance and Hawthorne spheres could no longer tug our strings. Jordan vanished, the Vances pretended nothing happened. Knowing their methods, her ending could only be bleaker than mine. My adoptive parents were left permanent invalids. Nathan, jailed for assault, requested leave to attend the ceremony. I refused. I wasn't ready to face him, but he was right, everyone pays for their sins. Richard and Eleanor tried to funnel covert support into Southtime. I returned every cent, handouts come with invisible collars, and both Derek and I had tasted enough of that leash. We invited partners who'd gambled on us and friends who'd offered real help. Derek claimed he meant to repay every scrap of happiness I'd been denied. I looped my arms around his neck and brushed a kiss to the corner of his mouth. Love once owed had finally been paid in full. Alone, I pushed open the cathedral doors. Spotlight warm on my shoulders, I felt neither lonely nor afraid. Derek waited at the far end, smile tender, pride glowing in his eyes. Step by step I walked toward him, toward the future that should have been mine all along. Near the last pew I sensed a scorching gaze. I glanced aside, only an empty corner. The flicker of unease melted in the cheers around us. We spoke vows, traded rings, kissed beneath a storm of applause. I never saw the solitary figure detach itself from the shadows. How long he'd stood there, I don't know. Amid the festivity, a single tear tracked down his cheek. Julian pressed an old photograph to his heart, me, years ago, edges fuzzy from countless thumbings, sealed under glass. Slowly he folded to the marble floor, shoulders shaking, sobs finally unleashed. He had lost the girl who once carried the whole universe of her love for him, lost her forever.